Before Huggy, before Mummy, before the factory fell into darkness, there was something else. Something they called the prototype. It's the early 80s, and one company shines brighter than the others. Playtime Co. Their intent is to create the best toys on the market and to bring a smile to as many kids as possible. But when nobody's looking, things are different. Reports have been found about staff mistreatment, immoral experimentation, and a secret experimental project that was never meant to come out. The company stumbled upon the ability of bringing things back to life through a chemical found in poppy flowers. Initially, they tested it on dead rats to see if it will revive them, but it didn't work. The body was way too tiny for such a strong reaction, so they needed something more. This is how Harley Sawyers, the head of special projects, came up with the BBI, Bigger Bodies Initiative. This initiative needed human lives to be tested on, and in order to do that, Playtime Co. started adopting orphans with the goal of turning them into toys. Once everything was set up, a game station was needed to be built, and Warren Back Construction was hired for this job under a very secretive contract which stated that they couldn't refuse any request from the company, even when they required them to build a prison.
I don't like what I'm supposed to be building here. Look, the game station, whatever. It'll be fun for the kids. Underground production plants. Sure, maximize production. Makes a kind of sense. As much as any of us, I suppose. But this... what in the world would a toy company need with a prison?
Let me give you a bit of history, friend. In 1972, you signed a contract, a legally binding piece of paper that says whatever is asked of you, you do it. We asked. You did. In 1990, you signed another, a renewal. In it, had you bothered at all to read it, you'd have found a small clause. Any and all directives will be accomplished in the appropriate time and with appropriate compensation should the project be completed to satisfaction. Your name rests at the bottom of that document, and I remember because it was the ugliest bit of cursive I've ever seen. So now you do the work, because we've given you a directive.
Mr. Ritterman, we're near the...
Yes. Yes, we are. All of us are. On a ledge.
The goal was to test, reshape their orphans, and turn them into perfect workers. They didn't want to make toys anymore. They wanted obedience, intelligence, and control. A lot of experimentation goes on, and a lot of it is discarded, thrown away and forgotten until the first good result comes in. Experiment 1006, the prototype. It did not need food, it was more intelligent than all previous experiments, and he learned extremely fast. But intelligence cannot exist without awareness, and awareness cannot exist without questions. The moment it began asking them, it stopped being their creation, and it became its own. Most monsters chase. The prototype doesn't. It watches. After the first success of the experiments, scientists lined up to interrogate and question the prototype, but he disliked and refused to talk to all of them. All but one, Harley Sawyers. It's during a conversation between them that we first hear the prototype speak. He engaged in a monologue about his motivations, questioning Harley Sawyers' thoughts on the effects of the Bigger Bodies Initiative and the mistreatment of experiments. After Sawyers retorts and comments on learning something new about the prototype at each meeting, he sarcastically thanks Harley and repeats his words back at him in Harley's own voice. To some, it may sound like mockery, but there is no joke meant there. The prototype has been studying the scientists, learning about them, and he puts everything into practice the following meeting where he planned an escape.
A close call occurred this week in which he nearly breached containment. The prototype seemingly disassembled the digital alarm clock within his room and utilized the battery, along with several other components, to create a laser pointer, which he then fired into the security camera, disabling it. These actions allowed him 28.3 seconds completely unmonitored. Once function returned to the camera, the room appeared to be empty. One surveillance specialist went in to confirm his absence. However, upon opening the door, she realized that the prototype had hidden in one of the camera's blind spots. The prototype attempted to escape through the open door. However, another surveillance specialist was able to remotely relock the door, despite the other specialists still being inside. One casualty occurred. The prototype seems to possess an unprecedented level of intelligence, beyond that of all other test subjects, as well as an alarming willingness to commit violence. Further suppression treatments will need to be enacted to ensure that no other experiments develop these qualities. Experiment 1170, Huggy Wuggy, remains the optimal outcome due to his sufficient intelligence paired with maximum obedience. End of log.
But they got two things wrong there, one being how really smart the prototype was, and the other, who Huggy Wuggy was obedient to. 5 years later, the 8th of August, a workforce alert is sent through the company. All the practice, scheming and learning that the prototype was doing was being put into action, and the hour of joy commenced. Footage recorded all over the company shows the toys breaking from their roles, killing everybody on sight. First Huggy Wuggy moving from his platform, then Mummy Longlegs launching everybody up with her long arms. Even the most minuscule and unimportant of toys, the ones that were disregarded and disrespected by the staff. The prototype had a clear goal: take revenge and control from all the humans that were abusing them. And once the hour of joy had come to an end, they had achieved just that. The entire company filled to the brim with corpses of people that used to work there, and nobody else to govern it. It's impressive how quickly and how disastrous the prototype managed to be, considering that just one experiment after him, the company had achieved perfection with Poppy. But unlike her, the prototype saw what the company was doing to the other toys, witnessed the abuse firsthand, and decided to not forget nor forgive. He reworked the toys, grabbed their scrapped parts and put them to good use. What the company was throwing away, he was gathering to rebuild to make it shine again. On the other hand, Poppy is very different. In the notes, she is considered the perfect toy, the most obedient, the most intelligent, and still with an important moral sense. And that moral sense of her, the one that pushes us to escape, is the reason why the prototype doesn't want her free, but many times repeats how he'd prefer she stayed caged inside of her box. At the end of the story, the prototype wasn't exactly the evil, although his deeds were. They came to fruition from years and years of experimentation on him, of torture on multiple different toys, that he simply needed to avenge. This is why, as former employees of the company, we the players are met by the toys from the Bigger Bodies initiative that want solely to kill us, from Huggy Wuggy to Mummy Longlegs to Catnap, ultimately the Doctor and the prototype. As for where we stand now, the main concern is that the prototype has gotten Poppy, and without her by our side, escaping isn't really a certainty. But this is why the prototype is not really that evil or evil at all compared to what was done to him and the consequences that brought after. With it though, I'd like to ask you something regarding our current stance, because from where chapter 4 ended, realistically speaking, we would have had enough time to explain everything in chapter 5 and finish the game, like the developers had said in Origin. But instead, they decided to end chapter 5 abruptly to give us a little bit of suspense, I guess, and another chapter which does make them money. And I want to hear your opinion on that. What do you think about delaying the lore and the drops just to be able to make another game? Let me know in the comments below. Decide if you like the video, click that button, subscribe, that will really help the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Nameless out.